Most times, victims of road crashes in Nigeria and their family members do not get compensation from transport companies, vehicle owners, and insurance companies. This may be as a result of ignorance or lack of the law of compensation for victims of road crashes or failure of most transport companies to do a motor vehicle third-party insurance, which is supposed to provide some level of compensation for uninsured victims of road accidents. Sometimes, even delay in the judicial process often discourage victims of accidents from seeking compensation. The Federal Road Safety Corps, FRSA, on its part, is coming up with plans to ensure transporters and vehicle owners pay compensation to victims of road traffic crashes, aside full prosecution of trailer, tanker drivers, or owners of trucks involved in any fatal crash. Now, don't you think a Motor Vehicle Third-Party Insurance Act, which will enable the government to set up a fund to compensate uninsured victims of road accidents, is necessary? Are there laws of compensation for victims of road crashes in Nigeria? If yes, what do the laws say, and to what extent has relevant agencies been enforcing the law? How best can the government and relevant agencies go about this issue so that transporters and reckless drivers will not only be held responsible for avoidable road accidents, but victims will also be adequately compensated? On the program today, our guests shall be providing answers to some of these questions shortly. Welcome to Nigeria Today. I am your carrier, Clinton. With me to throw more light on the compensation for road crash victim is Ahmed Abubakar Tanimu, human rights activist and private legal practitioner. Welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me. Always a delight being here.
Well, we're looking forward to being joined via Zoom by Manuel Chuboju, transport consultant and legal practitioner. But I will go into the issue of the day. Let's start with the current position of the law on compensation for victims of road crashes in Nigeria.
This is a very important topic because in one way or the other it affects all of us. The moment you wake up early in the morning, as you are stepping your foot out of your house, you are bound to engage in either taking vehicle, either your personal vehicle, you'll be on the road. And the risk is always there. There could be crashes, there could be accidents that are not planned. Some could be very fatal, resulting into injuries to the body, resulting into death. Over the years, a lot of people have died on the way, maybe traveling, even within the city centers and the rest. And the question that comes to mind is what happens to the victim? Before now, we've had any person that is driving a vehicle is supposed to have a third-party insurance cover. But the issue is that a lot of people are not actually registering the proper insurance. They are not having the proper insurance policy. We've had instances of fake cover, whereby you cannot authenticate the policy cover that you have. And this arises as a result of people cutting corners. If your papers are expired, and instead of you to go through the proper channel, you subscribe to touts to help you in getting those papers. So what they do is to just get a copy of a third-party policy cover and just put it as part of the documentation for you to renew your papers. So if there is an accident and involve a third party, will the claim now, since the originating certificate, that's the policy cover, is not real, it's not genuine. This is on the one hand. We have a lot of instances whereby the policy cover. So what I would advise is for the road safety to encourage them to find a way to authenticate policy cover. It should form part of the checklist of the inspection that they conduct on vehicle. They should ensure that all the policy cover that are being presented by vehicle users are authentic. If that is done, then they now know that they have reduced the risks involved, because it will definitely happen. It's just a matter of when. If it happens and they have the cover, they will now be able to fall back to the policy. As I said, because of the way things are being done in the country, you discover that substantial part of it, people are not even subscribing to it. Those are subscribing to it, they don't even know how to go about it in terms of trying to see that claims are being paid. Some see it only that this is what the requirement they need to be on the road, but they don't know the importance that if you are involved in an accident, the victim is supposed to approach the insurance company for a claim. But lately, the Nigerian Insurance Commission have been hard on various insurance companies, and they try to supervise what they are doing. So we are seeing improvement, but the impact is quite meager, because for you to claim insurance benefit, there are certain documentations that you need to present. Documentation is a problem. You don't have adequate documents. Some of these instances, you go to hospitals, some hospitals are not conducting autopsies. You will see that some of the victims cannot even be identified for them to even talk about the claim. They will talk about our cultural values. Like for the Muslims, they don't believe that a corpse will remain for a long time. So before you know it, when there's an accident and you see that the victims, especially if they are dead, they are just buried.
That's even in the case of death.
Death, yes, they're just buried. Then in the case of fatal injury, the amount of compensation is not adequate for even those that will be paid. This lingering problem has been on for a very long time, and the government, there is a proposal to amend the third-party insurance of 2004. There is a bill that was proposed that it should be amended so that those that are not covered from the underwriters and from other funds, the government can in a way find a way to compensate still those victims. But it ends at proposal, it has not been implemented. All laws, especially that has to do with the federal government, are supposed to be implemented by the Federal Ministry of Justice. Over time, because of the overbearing and the burdensome nature of the attacks before the Ministry of Justice, they try to kind of push that responsibility to the Legal Aid Council. An assistance rescue resource center was established so that they could harmonize the processes of paying insurance claim, and it's like a department under the Legal Aid Council. So if you look at the position of the Legal Aid Council, they are supposed to render legal services to the downtrodden, because the idea is that if you are capable, you don't need to wait for any government agency to enforce your claim. You have to just to get a lawyer or an underwriter or an expert in the field to pursue your claims. But we know that the majority of Nigerians, they don't have that wherewithal. So the government on its own have tried to see how they'll be able to create a center, a one-stop shop, whereby they will harmonize all these claims and try to see how they can. But in terms of efficiency, it has not been very effective, and the call is still there that we should have a central, a very functional body, whereby the moment there is an accident, they know that there are victims, crash victims, compensation should be automatic. Automatic in the sense that just like the way you have the national health insurance cover, it should equally be, there should equally be a specific program whereby once there's an accident, the people should be taken to either the police station or to the hospital, and the hospital should notice that there is a cover, because the government has already set in a machinery that if it is death, they know a certain amount will be paid. If it is injury, they should be able to foot the bill. As I'm talking to you at the moment, we don't have a functional system to cover that. So there's still a lacuna in that aspect. If you are a victim, I pray you will not fall victim, but there's little more that if you are relying on claims, you will not get it. It's not forthcoming, unfortunately.
Well, how necessary is it to compensate victims of road accident, and who should compensate?
Very, very necessary. Necessary in the sense that for some, the culture involve, even burial, involve a lot of expenses. Some, the corpse will be deposited in the mortuary until it is identified, and it's not for free. monies are required for payment. The burial rites, some you need to take them to their ancestral hometown. Some involve some rites, some rituals, some prayer points. People need to come around. It involves resources, and already the family are bereaved. And if you look at it, knowing that we are the poverty capital of the world, and multiple dimensional poverty is affecting a lot of Nigerians. So some don't even have the capacity in terms of they are grieving, but they still have the burden of performing burial rites. So the government, it should be a responsibility on the part of the government. There are so many ways funding can be gotten for that. Government can make it a deliberate policy. Either you tax companies the way you have it for education trust fund, the way you have it for so many other sectors. Same thing should be provided. You see, one funny thing about most of us in the country is that we all believe that we will not be a victim. And because of that belief,
it's not our portion.
It's not our portion. Some they make it a prayer point. It's not my portion, but it will definitely happen. We pray that it will not be but it will happen. So what happened to those that are victims? Government have not really taken, have not made deliberate, taken deliberate action, implemented deliberate policies to look at those aspects. In the insurance company, ordinarily is their responsibility. But if you look at the quantum, the volume, and you look at who is checking the insurance company, you have a third-party claim. If not of recent that the NICOM has been very hard on insurance company, the case used to be that if you have an accident, the insurance company will not pay your compensation. But now it has changed. If you are having a policy cover, the one that a comprehensive one, they will fix your car, they will fix your the damaged vehicle and even the injuries. But that one will have to do with the comprehensive insurance policy cover. The third party, maybe because of the premium, they've proposed that it should be increased to about 20,000 so that they will have adequacy of funds. But that should not only be, government should make it a deliberate policy. Corporate organization they could make corporate organizations so that it will form part of their corporate social responsibility, whereby a certain amount of their profit should be set aside for making such kind of payment. There should be a contributory fund. Then we have issues of unclaimed dividends running into billions. In the banks, we have funds of people, either they open an account, they are no longer using the account. Some have made transaction, the transaction is hanging, and because of that, they cannot make claims to those money. Some they either open an account and they are dead. Do they have so kind of cash in the banks? The government too can leverage on that to ensure that they have funding, because the idea is about funding. If you have adequate funding, you will now be able to create the environment. You will have a body like the one we have, the Oscar. It is existing, but when you talk about functionality, the effect is not really trickling down, and that is where the government needs to come in. I would propose that an act should be passed to now empower Oscar. If they want to take it out of the Legal Aid Council, it can be a commission comprising of the road safety, the police, the Federal Ministry of Health, all stakeholders, so that the moment an accident happens, they should be able to have proper documentation. The victims should be compensated. Now we are going digital. With your BVN, with your NIN, your next of kin can easily be identified. All these things, there should be synergy, so that the person, the next of kin should be known, people that should be contacted should be known, the funds should be available, and the enforcement is what is key. The police now will have to do more their work in terms of investigation. The road safety, as I said earlier, they should ensure that the third party policy cover are genuine, and the Nigerian Insurance Commission should enforce it to ensure that there is adequate supervision for all the insurance company that payments are made. And if you look at even the insurance, premium are paid, and if you look at the volume of premium that are paid, let's say a million policy is taken, it's not all the million that will crystallizes into fatality or accident. So what happens to the other part of those unclaimed policies? You still have some funds. So you need more of regulation and supervision by NICOM to ensure that such kind of fund with the proposed amendment that should be made to allow those that don't have the cover should be covered. The hospital should be involved in terms of the moment there is an accident, there is a victim, either alive, dead or alive. Attention should be placed on the compensation that should kind of try to bring them back to their position before the accident.
Yeah. So what do you say about the move by the Federal Road Safety Corps on the need for transporters to start compensating the victims? Peradventure there's an accident, because just like what you've rightly said, at the end of the day the victims are left on their own to cater for everything. Well, even for those that were not, probably people that didn't die in the process, people that were not injured, probably they did not have any form of deformities, they still have trauma. And they will still need some sort of rehabilitation. This costs money. So what do you say about the move by the FRSC to ensure that transporters compensate victims of accidents?
The move is encouraged. But if you look at our cultural setting, and I've witnessed, because a colleague of mine in my former office was driving and he had an accident and there's a victim that died. He had to foot the bill. And I discovered that it's a norm now, whether you are reckless, whether they are the ones that are reckless. Once it happens, based on our culture, people naturally want to take responsibility. Responsibility in the sense that you want to do things that you know that the family of the victim are grieving. If you have the means, if you have the capacity, you want to try to see that you augment by trying to give them succor. But now if you are now making it an issue of law, it's encouraged. In other climes, it's even very, like in China, so if the victim is not dead, you take the responsibility of its health, of his or he or her, their health need. It will not be on you. But if the person dies, it's different. So you see that there's a lacuna in this sense that people prefer that their victim actually die, but we will not take that route. That move by the Federal Road Safety is encouraged in the sense that transporters should be held accountable, especially the trailers, the truck drivers. They don't care based on the orientation that they have, that, well, they don't even value human life, and that's a major issue. The emphasis that we place on human life is a good effort, but as I said, you need all stakeholders to be on board. You need the National Union of Road Transport Workers, you need the various agencies and under the Ministry of Transport across board, from the federal down to the state level. They should be able to work even with those operating the various motor park, that certain amount is set aside. Of recent, if you go to a standard motor park, you see them taking names, asking you to keep your number. Some of the insurance companies have tried to collaborate with them, but it's still about implementation. It's not effective. They'll start it on and off, and when you look at the adequacy of the amount being paid, is not adequate. So if the road safety want to take it as their baby, what they need to do is to synergize with other stakeholders. The Federal Ministry of Justice need to be brought, the Legal Aid Council, Oscar Assistant Rescue Center that is already existing, but it's the functionality, that the impact, people are not feeling the impact. A government should just come with a single law that will define what will happen in the event of death, in the event of accident, fatality, how the compensation should be paid. They should make it to be a seamless process, and they should not only wait until it happens. They should be proactive. Enough funds should be allocated, should be generated. As I said, you can get the funds through taxation, through you just need a functional setup involving all stakeholders. The road safety can now supervise, ensuring that policy covers are genuine. NICOM now should ensure that insurance companies, all the premium paid over the years should still be used in compensating those that have policy covers and those that don't even have. it should be about law, because if it is a move, you are designing a program, it doesn't have the backing of law. So if there's anything that happens, you cannot easily enforce. But if you have a clear court law that has been made that covers the whole federation, this is what happened in an instance where somebody dies. Is it the transporter? The transporter alone cannot pay because it's not adequate. What happens if they don't own the vehicle? It's like you engage in transport business. You expect your driver to be careful. You maybe the car is on hire purchase, the vehicle is on hire purchase. You are really out to make profits. You do not inculcate, you do not envisage that a situation will come where you need to pay certain amount as compensation for either the crash that your employee has caused. So if it's a matter of law, the law is clear, everybody knows it. If it happens, you know who you are to hold responsible. The documentation is proper. They've registered it you have a database. The owner of the vehicle, the driver, the policy cover. So in the event of an accident, what they just need to do is to check the vehicle number. The details will come out. Certain amount of funds ordinarily. Since you are engaged in business, every business that you know comes with its risks, and the best way to you cannot eradicate risks. You only mitigate, and the mitigating factor now is for you to have either certain amount of money set aside. You know that you wait until the occurrence of that incident before you now start looking for ways. It should be that if you must engage in transportation business, there should be proper registration as we have it at the moment. You can just wake up the next morning, go to any of the park, and you start loading. These are not the way things should be done. The National Union of Road Transport, they see themselves more of as a union organization to protect their members. They've not equally thought it fit to expand the scope. We are the passengers, are the cash cow in this business climb, and they are the ones that are supposed to be protected.
Okay, now you talked about the legal aid. Sure. A lot of victims find it kind of like a waste of time. They see it as a waste of time to go to the court to seek redress because of the delay in the judicial process. Okay. What would be your take on this? In terms of delay in our court, is prevalent and everybody knows it. If we want to really reform our judicial system, the way election matters are being handled, we could have a semblance of that in aspect that has to do with claims for insurance for accident victim. It is said that you make the court, the judiciary now will now make it as a directive policy, because our judicial sector, the courts have they have rules of court, and they can now make it that insurance claim, they should make it to be very just like what you have in the industrial court for employment related issue. They could now have something similar, that for anything that has to do with insurance claim, the processes should be less technical, should be expeditious. All this wouldn't have been a problem if you have a functional central body that kind of encapsulates all the laws in one hand, have the resources, have the personnel, have all stakeholders contributing, giving their quota. They will be able to achieve the expeditious claims for victims. All right, thank you very much. And that's it on Nigeria Today. We want to thank our guest, Ahmed Abubakar Tanimu, human rights activist and private legal practitioner. Thank you very much for your contribution.
Thank you for having me.
We do apologize for not having Mani or Chuwojo, transport consultant and legal practitioner, who was not able to join us there. Also, to you, our viewer, thank you for always keeping it the date. Don't forget, Nigeria Today air weekdays at 7:30 p.m. on NTA News 24. You can watch this and other episodes on www.youtube.com/NTA News 24 Hub. Once again, thanks for watching. I am Victoria Clinton. Goodbye.